Hello, beloveds. I am wanting to bring you some information about what's going on energetically for the planet, which I believe will be useful to some of you. So, essentially, the big news is that what has occurred and what we've been kind of living with is that the entire sort of planetary energy systems, if you will, basically got turned off like a giant circuit breaker kind of a thing, where the whole thing got turned off and then got turned back on again. So like a total system reboot, right? Like in the same way that if your computer's not working, you might have to just completely power it all the way down and then start over. And you might not even be able to get it to power down. Like I use a Mac, and sometimes the kind of getting the thing to shut down, if it's misfunctioning on my older Mac, my older MacBook, I would have to just turn that power button all the way down and just sort of crash everything down and then start over again, and things would reopen correctly. But in that same way that we have the experience of things kind of booting back up again, it can take a little while. And that is where we are at now, and I want to describe that a little bit more for you. So the other image that's coming in is like in Jurassic Park when all the power went out. It's like that, right? And all the power went out, and then like the security systems didn't work correctly, and as they were trying to work on kind of rebooting everything, then it was okay when we get the different gates and security pieces to come back online, but they kind of came back on slowly, right? So the other image that I think is useful is kind of like a house, right? So if all the power goes out in the house all of a sudden, and you're just kind of like hanging out there in the darkness, and everything's out, and all the lights are out, and all the systems are down, and nothing's working, and then it comes back on, sometimes we kind of have that. When it comes back on all of a sudden, all at once, we have that kind of like, oh no, we've got to run around and, turn out all the lights and the TVs or the radios or whatever that were on at the time that the power went out. And, the time has gone by, and maybe it's the middle of the night, and suddenly, the power comes back on. And if we didn't get all those switches flipped, then instead what we have is this experience of all the lights coming on in the middle of the night and, possibly waking us up. So that's what's going on for the humans. So the planet had a very rapid sort of like circuit breaker all the way off, circuit breaker back on, new energetic system is installed and booting up for the planet. But our human biology requires a slower reboot. And even for those who have been doing tremendous work increasing their capacities to do the physical, biological integrations of all the big kind of cosmic energies and planetary energies that are both sort of coming in and also kind of coming back up out from Earth out to the cosmos, because there's a flow that's moving back and forth all the time, and we are receiving from both sides of that, and also kind of conduiting that as well when we are in a good kind of open flow space. At least we are. So within your own energetic systems, consider the imagery of a variety of different kind of aligned sort of energy channels that kind of all come together, like different different pipes or different threads that are all kind of wound together in one big giant kind of like rope that is the huge energetic current overall that is flowing in and through you and then kind of out of you, right? Whether that's coming from wherever that's coming from, from cosmic, from divine, from earth, etc., both directions. And say, for example, I'm making this up, but say there's 15 of those, just for the sake of visualization, for our human mind, for a mental model. So say there's 15 of those. Say that 3 or 4 of them are still, if you will, offline. So they all kind of had that circuit breaker, boom, power out, energy current stops, deeply voidal experience during that. Then they start coming back on. Switch goes back on, they start coming back on. And as they're coming back on, we may be receiving new information, new kind of intel or images or kind of visions for ourselves, or we may be experiencing, yes, so that would be what you have potentially been receiving. And you may also have been receiving expansions, like big accelerations in some of your sort of esoteric or magical or whatever you want to call them, capacities outside of just the sort of standard mundane world capacities. And for some, this time may have been very joyful, but for most, it hasn't yet gotten to that place. Now, this circuit switch flip, this occurred with the solar eclipse, which was on the kind of overnight, late December 3rd, early Saturday, December 4th, depending on where you are on the globe, of course. And that really, like, with the eclipse was that big, like, boom off, boom on that occurred. And so we're in this new phase with this new planetary energetic architecture that's in place and online. And now internally within the humans, it's kind of coming back online internally. So there may be 3 or 4 of these sort of like I'm just making up this number, 15 different kind of energetic channels coming into you that are still paused. They're just on this pause, waiting to kind of cycle back up. And the experience may be this, that even with either increased sort of intel or information availability, or just simply still clear intel information availability, it's as if those pipes or circuits, those channels, were the ones through which our experiences of kind of joyful, laughing, music, childlike, playful, like all the super, like for me, the super fun, like la la la, super joyful, super playful, super laughing. It feels to me like music and laughter, children's laughter is what it feels like energetically. And that those are on pause right now. And it's been a very odd experience to have those be on pause, and yet all of the information, intel, connectedness, whatever, communication is still open. And was only kind of down briefly. And for me, that's been a very unusual experience as I describe it, because usually these things go together hand in hand. And so very interesting to see them separated out like this, and very clear communication that these other kind of remaining channels will come back online soon and are actually starting a little bit to open as I'm giving you this, doing this recording at least, which just for the sake of those who care about these things, I'm doing on Tuesday, December 7th, Pacific time, 7:07 p.m. is the current time. I love that, 7:07. Anyway, so the kind of a side benefit to the pause on the laughing, playful music energies, kind of the musical laughing notes energies, is that there is also a pause on the negative extreme emotions. At least this is my experience. Now, and what I hear is that this is a kind of a beneficial support, and that it is essentially part of the need for the humans to kind of calibrate and support their own, and just allowing their integration to occur. Like, you don't actually have to do any new crazy things that I'm going to give you, later in this transmission to do around this. It's just part of what's happening as it's been happening, that the kind of the energies come in, the biology adapts, the biology integrates, and kind of the continued evolutionary leap forward occurs, right? This is just a really big phase that just kind of came in for the planet, and so it's really affecting us as well in a very positive way ultimately. very positive. Ultimately, I want you to really be able to have the opportunity to really celebrate, even if you're not feeling like celebrating, because even if you're in that kind of pause mode around the joy and the playfulness and the singing, just know that that'll come back times 20, and that these new energetic systems for the planet are just so good, so beautiful, so amazing, and just going to be so fabulous for us to kind of connect to, be aware of, integrate in, and be able to kind of carry forward, if you will, and to help spread and anchor throughout the rest of humanity. So that's just fantastic. The pause, I think it'll come back on in little bits and pieces for most of us in various ways. I don't have a sense of like, oh, just we're going to have another switch flip where it's just boom, now it's all back on. It's really this sort of integration and the fact that the biology has to slow down in order to handle it. Because, for example, if like thinking of the electrical metaphor again, if you started running, if you turned off the circuit, and then you connected the circuit to a power source that was like going to run, 100 times greater energy through it, and you tried to flip that circuit, then it would fritz out. It would like blow out or burn out all of the kind of devices plugged in, right? And so the energies don't want that to happen to you and to me in our human, because that's not what we're here to do, right? We're here to do this evolutionary leap. So it's coming back on in bits and pieces for us. The question that I hear from you, of course, is how do I support that or make that easier? And it's a very classic answer, which is to be skillful and apply your skillfulness with your neurobiology, with your brain, with your nervous system, and to really understand how all this stuff works, and to understand the way in which, on two levels. So with the nervous system, it's all the standard supports to the nervous system. I've spoken about this so many times, I don't feel that it's necessary for me to go into it again here, but all of those kind of standard supports to kind of help the nervous system be handling things, and which isn't to say that the nervous system is in overdrive. You really want to be able to get skillful about understanding, is my nervous system overstimulated, which is what we tend to focus on, right? We're like into a very highly activated sympathetic nervous system, maybe even into fight or flight. That's where kind of all the press goes, so to speak, all the airtime for the people. But also, is my nervous system understimulated? In this recent pause, your nervous system may have been understimulated in many ways, particularly if you're very good already at supporting your nervous system. So if you're very good at supporting your nervous system, then you didn't get really fritzed out by this, but you have this understimulation issue, and what that is creating for you is an experience of like, I can't really kind of get up and get going. And on top of that, the pauses on the playful, joyful, singing music, childlike energy is very weird, particularly if this is a place where you've been for a long time, where you've been in that really great space and you're like, whoa, what happened, right? And so, that can kind of put you in this very sort of lower, understimulated space compared to what you're used to. So you can do different things around that based on what feels useful and right to you. There have been, many of my messages to me in these last couple of days have been to just write it out. Just hang on, insulate yourself, and write it out. And that's been great. And that's been very effective for me. And the kind of insulating yourself, cloistering yourself, bubbling up, all of that has been very useful. And also, though, for those who that maybe isn't enough, right? This is where I want you to actually bring in music, like bring in some stimulating, like, yeah, I'm going to get up and I'm going to dance. And what are my favorite kind of dancing songs, even if I don't feel like really moving because my emotions don't feel there, my heart doesn't feel it. If I get my body moving to the faster beat music, that will be enough to stimulate my nervous system and to get it kind of, hyped up a little bit. if it feels that it won't stress your body too much, then maybe a little extra caffeine is going to help you, because this isn't a rest time in the sense of like we have to cocoon up and do nothing. That's not what's called for here. I mean, if you want to do that and you feel called to do that, of course do it, but that's not what is the requirement of this energetic space that we're in right now. It's just simply just kind of get through to the other side of it. And so we have things that, we need to keep moving along, in our home lives, in our personal lives, in our work lives, whatever. Keep the things moving along that we can. You may be pleasantly surprised to find that you actually are able to keep things moving along, even though it isn't quite as enjoyable because you're not accessing those paused energetics of the super delightful high energies of the kind of the laughing, childlike, singing energies. So, but that's okay, right? Like, we're fine. We're going to just doop, 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 keep going. Now, on the brain side, this is really important. So on the brain side, it's about the story you're telling yourself, okay? So what's going on for most of the collective as this is occurring is most of the collective is just sort of freaking out and having huge stress in the nervous system that's totally fritzing out, totally overloading, and the stories are basically, I'm screwed, I can't survive, what's going to happen to me, lots of imposter syndrome, or I'm not good enough kinds of energies. And this is because people have not been able to be, have developed their capacity, their skillfulness, their sovereignty with their own neurobiology, because nothing teaches them how to do this, right? We don't, our parents aren't teaching us, our school systems aren't teaching us, our workplaces aren't teaching us. You have to go find this information, and even then, much of the information is incorrect or inaccurate or not tactical, not actionable. And then in the case of the highly gifted humans that I work with exclusively, it's also like there's very specific pieces for us that are very different. So in the collective, we have all these kind of negative energies going on because people are then making up a story. Now, if you've been doing this work for quite some time, you may be surprised. You may be having this feeling of like, why am I having this weird sense of imposter syndrome? I haven't had this in a really long time. I know I'm not in this space. What's going on? What's wrong? What did I do? Right? And so you see how the story, the mind, the brain, this is where this comes in. How quickly does the story start to go kind of down the shitter, so to speak, into sort of dumpster fire land of old neural pathways where the story is, oh, it's all me, my fault, I suck, I didn't do it correctly, I'm going to let people down, who do I think I am, blah, 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 blah. Let's do that. Let's get the old peanuts like wah, 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 right? So if you are skillful and have developed some capacity to notice when you have these little narratives in your mind, in your brain, that you can stop them, and you understand the ways that work for you to stop them and to kind of sort of strike that, reverse it, as Willy Wonka would say, and then kind of carry on, right, without being sucked into the story, then you've probably been mostly fine during this time if you had sort of pause feelings and you're kind of wondering where things are. If you're not skillful at that, then you might be getting sucked down into a little bit of a whirlpool. And so that is one of the key things that's happening for those that I know are listening to this, going ahead in time to know where you're listening to this, that you need to hear. It's just the old stories. It's not real. Release the story, let it go, and just carry on. Do what you know to do, and remember who you are. Okay? And just keep on going. Now, I want to say a little bit going ahead. So, I mean, December is a very wild ride as the kind of these new high energetic systems, kind of architecture, if you will, really comes online in more nuanced and detailed ways, and really interesting, super fun, super supporting of a very high new experience, but also very new. right? So, and I told you before that after the solar eclipse, we were going to be in a new phase. I didn't have a lot of information about what would it look and feel like. I did not understand that it was going to be just an entirely new kind of energetic architecture, but I love that it is. It's super cool, super fun. So what I also am aware of is that this has been going on for a little while, not just with the solar eclipse, but I think it will be very accelerated now. Is that there is is new architecture, if you will, energetically coming into the energy systems within the human biology, and so I don't know how to give you. I don't hear the words to give you about that, other than tune into it. Drop in and tune into your own guidance systems around this for where that's happening for you, right? So like for me, I'll just tell you my own a story for me. So this was, I don't know, a few weeks ago. I'm really bad at human time now, but a few weeks ago, I had the sort of spontaneous experience in an extended kind of meditative state of being aware of the energy architecture at my kind of root base energy center being both very much expanded, kind of made very much bigger all around, and also some more kind of nuanced, almost like a sacred geometry kind of imagery in which more lines kind of came in, very tiny, thin, kind of gossamer thin kind of lines coming in throughout that inner architecture, essentially kind of making as if, okay, so here's the image. So the sort of the geometric kind of, if you can think of it like a geometric kind of mandala that has one layer of kind of, that has like a certain layer of complexity, suddenly expanding out, and then having another very nuanced layer of complexity kind of develop, like that it just sort of like a slow kaleidoscope where it just kind of opens, and instead of it being, 5 layers, it's 10, but the added layers aren't crowding in the space. They're just sort of more nuances, like as if they were there, but they just kind of came back online. I don't know exactly how to say that, but it's the feeling was of immediately like huge extra roominess and spaciousness, and I felt this physically in my body as well, and still do more kind of movement and flow in the pelvic area. I didn't even have a sense of that there wasn't, or that there was like any sort of additional room there to be had, because I wasn't feeling any sense of kind of congestion. It just, energetically, or kind of physical stuckness or slowness, it just opened, and I feel this is happening for all of the energy centers within your body, and in some cases you may have a visceral experience like the one I described. And so if you're not aware of any of this yet, tune in and kind of just call it in. Just go, I'm ready for that upgrade. Like, bring it and just make it happen. And I feel that the words that I gave, the description, the visual description that I was given to give you, will be enough to help activate within you. And know that just because I'm describing it in the pelvic area doesn't mean that that's where it's going to happen for you, or at the base. It could be happening in other areas. It could be happening in all of them, and you may only have a visceral, tangible experience in one, right? Because I do feel that this has occurred in all of my energy centers. I just have this very strong visceral sense of it in that base chakra, root chakra area. So super fun stuff that's coming along. And so more and more sort of stepping up and stepping into new vision for yourself, or not necessarily, there may be new vision, but for many of you listening, what I hear is it's not so much about new vision as it's like, okay, it's time for the next level of the vision. You already had the vision, and now it's time. Like boom, 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 things are happening. They're just falling into place. The dominoes are just going. Things are just clicking. magically, resources, partnerships, shifts, whatever, ideas, blah, blah, all of it. It's just falling into place. It's here's the next level. And so and if that's you, then you probably had a little bit of the kind of like not good enough or imposter syndrome or who the hell do I think I am vibe in these last couple of days during that pause time that I mentioned, because because that just tends to go hand in hand with a big level up anyway. And so the story would kind of make sense, because if you refer back to, the whole your body is a story, is many stories transmission from a few days ago, the idea that every time you have an expansion, you go through a wave of doubt is historically what you've experienced. So your body is a story, and it's going to do that story again, even though you didn't really actually have any energetics or emotions attached to it. And hopefully you caught this and haven't allowed it to be, much more than, kind of a mild irritant. I would say that for me, it's been just kind of like, blech, I don't like this. Blech, bring me back my, bring me back my sugar. Anyway, and what I have found was the most helpful for me during this phase, as usual, is that the most helpful way for me to kind of get back to at least some of the sugar, so to speak, is to just swing into service mode in various ways, right? And so the work that I do privately to support the planet and the land and the DNA holders, before and after, all of that has been very helpful. But also my work with my clients, just like, okay, I'm going to stop looking at me, if you will, and trying to figure out what's going on and just put it aside. I have the information. I'm just not 100% trusting the information because it doesn't have that high energy, signature attached to it that I'm used to, that visceral experience of the kind of laughter, singing, playfulness. And so I just had to make the decision. I trust the information. The information is always right. So whatever this is, write it out, do these things, focus my attention on my clients and on my service esoterically, and just do it, right? And, and immediately having then experiences as a result of working with folks who are having similar things, and me sharing about this being very useful to them, and then, oh, look, let's do a transmission on this. So here we are, another level of service. But also feeling very energized this evening, feeling this afternoon and evening as if the kind of circuitry is really starting to come back alive, coming back on. And so I want to share that so that, you may be starting to feel that as well if you have been aligning with what I've been describing. So I do sense that into, early 2022, we do have kind of this kind of like introductory kind of, preschool bumpiness, a little bit for some of us with this new kind of energetic level and energetic architecture, certainly at the collective level. And so the big thing here is to really focus on how do you stay insulated and kind of above the energetic signature of the collective. This is just going to be everything for the next, say, 3, maybe 4 months, okay? This is just your whole, like, sometimes we do kind of like the big three, priorities for the day, for planning the day. This is your only priority for every day, okay, is this. Tend to your vibe, tend to your resonance, tend to your mood, tend to your body. Stay above what the little bumpies that the collective is going through and will go through. And I say little bumpies, but they may be rocky. Stay above it. And do not judge yourself if you accidentally get snared. You will. I do. Everyone does. Just disentangle, rise back up again. Disentangle, rise back up again. Tend to yourself. Understand the craft of you, that how you work. Go deeper into understanding more of your rhythms. Go deeper into understanding more of what lights you up, of your magic. Go deeper into tending your signal, your connectedness. Go deeper into what helps you expand. But 2022 is going to be amazing. 2022 is just totally super wild, fun ride is how I feel. 2022 is just on fire in the best possible way and just amazing. And we're just really, there's a whole kind of meteor-like, kind of rocket-like energy that I'm feeling around 2022. And I don't yet have coalesced thematic words for you yet for 2022, but I do have a few concepts that kind of nest into this. Very much about integration. So if 2021 has been planetarily, if you remember, the energetic theme has been both and, right? To switch from either or to both and. It's almost as if 2022 is like both plus and. It's the integration of everything, of the next level of that integration. And it is very much about the choice to step into a very new kind of wise innocence. This phrase of wise innocence or innocent wisdom has been coming to me all the time. That may end up being the theme for 2022, I don't know. But this idea of innocent wisdom or wise innocence, this idea of the innocence that we can choose to claim after the wisdom that comes from experience, feels very strongly where the theme is, at least for the cosmic planetary vanguard, which, if you're listening to this, then you are, especially if you're still listening however long into this particular transmission I am, and you haven't just checked out. So good. So many wonderful energetic pieces coming in. And I just, as I always say, I just want to kind of leave you with reminding you about connecting to nature as much as you can. And, I know if you're down in the southern hemisphere listening to this, that's easy for you this time of year because you're in, your summertime. In the northern hemisphere, in the northern latitudes, that can feel really hard to do. I'm also really struggling with this as well. The cold and the rain and all of that can just make it really hard to get out into nature. Do what you can, be gentle with yourself, but just really try to do anything you can to commune with nature. If you can't quite get out into it, give yourself extra time to sit at a window and stare at the birds in the trees or at the feeder or whatever. Try to get yourself out with just your bare feet on the freezing cold or wet ground just for like 60 seconds, right? Bring a little towel out with you, bring your sandals, step out of them, step on that dirty, wonderful, grassy, whatever you got, ground, hang out for a minute, intend for all of that beautiful earthen energy to come up into you, intend for that beautiful earthen energy to bring you down into that beautiful earthen kind of Shambhala energy, that just gorgeous energy. And where you may have accumulated huge extra stores of cosmic energy inside you, push those down into the earth, because they're not meant to just stay stuck in you. They're meant to move through you down into the earth. These new energetic systems that are coming online around the planet and for you individually will make it so much easier for that flow to go down, right? We've been having this experience in the last 6 months in particular where there's like congestion or like a backlog where all the energies come into the body and then we're like, wait, I got to get it down. I forgot how to get it down. I got to, so we haven't quite had the flow through infrastructure, and our infrastructure is shifting again in a huge way. So enjoy that. Enjoy the feeling of it. If you don't quite have a visceral feeling of your energetics, I absolutely encourage you to just imagine it. Just make it up in your mind. What would it feel like based on what she's describing? Let me just imagine it. Let me just touch into imagining it, because actually that's probably exactly how it feels for you, is what you'll imagine, because that's a lot of our imagination is actually our connectedness trying to come through into our awake human awareness. Play with your imagination, right? I'll go back to one of my very favorite songs and movie scenes of all time from the original Willy Wonka, with Gene Wilder singing Pure Imagination, right? Come with me and you'll see, in a world of pure imagination. I'm going to have to go find that YouTube video and link that in here for you guys. So delightful. One of the best songs ever. I love him. Such a light. And you, beloved, you are a light. Such a big light. I'm so grateful for your light in the world, and I'm so grateful for our connection through these transmissions and any other way in which we may be connected. I have new fun infrastructures of resource support coming out in 2022 for you, and I can't wait to share all about it with you. Yay! I hope you're having fun. I love you, and I will talk to you soon.